right, it is now Verizon's time, 5:32, and all the April 7th meeting of the Municipal Building Commission to order. As always in this COVID age and Zoom age, Jeremy, do you want to call the roll and establish a quorum?
All right, Terry.
Here.
Ed. Here. Jackie.
Here.
Gail.
Here.
Jerry.
Here.
Mike. Mike in yet? All right, Andrew is not here, Kelly's not here, and Jack.
I'm here. We have a quorum. We did get a communication from Andrew and from Kelly that they were tied up with work and on the road and probably would not be joining us tonight. Because we like to hold roll calls, let's do this again. We have minutes from March 3rd and March 10th. Let's take them as one motion. Is any questions, comments, or corrections? Jackie?
Move to approve both.
Terry?
Second.
Thank you.
Jim, is Mike the attendee?
No,
okay.
it's Charlie Oliver.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure he wasn't in the waiting room. All right, on the minutes, Terry.
Yes.
Ed.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
Gail.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
And Jack.
Yes, it's unanimous. Motion passes. Okay, as always, we'll skip the bills. And Evan, I see you. Deb, I see you. Charlie has joined us. Oh, Bob Barton has joined us. I think Amy said that she might be late. She had another meeting. So take it away, Evan.
All right, I'm going to try to share my screen here.
We hope you're successful.
Okay. Can everybody see a picture of the interior of the library?
That's a very nice picture.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, so yeah, we continue to make good progress at the library. With the requisition from the contractor that's before you tonight, that's just over $400,000. That puts the project at 40% complete, and also includes the additional window change. So we might have been further, but obviously we've got some additional work scope there. So we've largely finished the work at the 4th floor. It's buttoning up. We're about to start some work on the elevator. Once that's complete, the staff will likely transition back up to the 4th floor. But what you're actually seeing here is the 3rd and 2nd floors, and you can see that we've started to protect and cordon off areas for work in that what is in essence the phase 3 of the project. Again, 4th floor, you'll actually see these terminal units. This is what gets us our heating and cooling installed above or in the ceiling systems there. Again, some piping. This is actually in some stairwells that are feeding the lower floors, as well as this you're seeing at the exterior. We've got some paint stripper and wrap on that exterior older window pieces. Here's what it looks like after that's been stripped. The paint stripper is a little bit of a art and a science with how long do you keep the stripper on there versus taking it off. So it's a combination of chemical stripper, heating things up and doing some scraping at those exterior windows. So we're continue to move forward with that.
Evan, these are windows in the old building?
That's right. This is the 1907 building. And
So they've got 100 years worth of paint on them?
they do, but that's also a good thing because it's done a good job at protecting the wood, and the old growth wood that they used to use back then is really much better in terms of resisting rot and decay. So most of this is in pretty good shape here, and there are also methods to be able to kind of restore epoxy wood that's at all questionable in place, but we haven't run into that quite yet.
Evan, has that been tested for lead paint?
Yes, it actually does have lead paint, and the documents call for that to be managed and treated appropriately. There are also, so portions that you're seeing here, right, those frames are actually remaining, but then there's other pieces of the older window system that are being removed and taken to a shop for some more delicate work for both glazing, any great glazing repairs, as well as paint stripping and whatnot. So there's a combination of on-site and off-site work that is going on.
For the record, let's just reflect that Mike Tyler has joined us. Welcome, Mike.
Very good. So here you'll see some progress up at the, again, the 1907 building. We've done some cleaning of the metal cornice work. You'll see the newly installed slate in the background, as well as the copper hip flashing and then top cap flashing.
What the metal that we're looking at there, what kind of metal is that?
It's copper.
I believe that is actually copper that basically is patinaed and also been painted in some respects throughout there. So I think we have called for that to get cleaned, and then that gets repainted. Is that correct, Deborah?
Yes, originally it was painted. A lot of the paint was peeling off. It was still on the underside, but these repairs, you see like this copper strip. I don't know if Evan, you can use your pointer.
Yep, right in along.
So it gets new little pieces of copper over the seams to repair it. So, and all kinds of new nails to plug holes and such, and then it will be repainted to match what it was originally.
Right.
And this copper that's so bright now, probably in 2 months or so, that'll dull down and start turning a brown, and that will not be quite so prominent.
Yeah, you can see it from about a block away when you're driving down the street. So they've really done some nice work with bending and recreating the shapes and the forms that we have there. Sorry. So you'll see the some of these terminations to the flat roof system and then to the hip cornices, corner flashing there. Here we've got some new equipment that's been installed. This picture is probably a week or two old. We actually have all of our rooftop equipment now placed on that upper roof area. Again, these are some of the pictures of the new equipment on the newly flashed curbs. So that stuff will get connected. So as I said, the contractors proceeding along. In addition to this, there's been quite a bit of work with some replacing the remaining light fixtures that were not upgraded to LED in a previous grant program. So that's been going on throughout the library. We have asked the contractor to try to get that lighting change out done around the skylights. We're probably a couple of weeks away from needing to actually do some prep work at the curbs and removing the existing skylights. So those will be covered, and the library will not have that natural light source for some period of time. So we're trying to get the newer, brighter lighting completed so that is less of an issue there. We did run into a bit of an issue. The roofer had removed some older roofing materials on the 1907 building and did not manage those materials properly. Our documents identify and call out certain inert ACM materials in some of the roofing. We had a visit from the Department of Labor and DEP and the roofing contractor with the assistance of BH&A's hazardous material consultant is in the process of starting phase 2 of a cleanup operation that was identified and required. So there were no, at no point where it was one in danger. This again, this material is inert, but we have a dumpster that that's full of roofing materials that are now commingled with some asbestos containing materials, and so this is now being closely monitored by DEP, our own consultant, to make sure that these materials are properly managed and disposed of legally. Any questions relative to construction progress?
Are we on time?
We are on time. This cleanup effort has put a little bit of a damper on some of the work at the exterior, but other work has continued on. So the plan is to start phase 2 of the cleanup on Monday. That should take about a week or so. And if they hold true there, they should be able to maintain the schedule without issue. If not, there will need to be some acceleration to recover the schedule, and that would be the cost of that would be the responsibility of the roofing subcontractor, but ultimately Track Builders is responsible for the schedule. So we are on schedule and continuing on.
Okay, any update on the additional window order?
No, well, so we have undertaken removing some of the windows at the 1993 portion of the building for the purposes of investigating actual wall construction, flashings and transitions and whatnot, so that when the shop drawings for the new windows, the replacement windows come through, that that information can be incorporated into that overall shop drawings and have things fabricated and ultimately installed in the proper fashion. So we had expected that those shop drawings would be in for review already, but we expect them later this week. And again, we continue to be told by the contractor that that is not an issue, and we are on schedule for that work to start probably in 2 months in terms of installation.
Did someone else have a question?
Yeah, I did, Evan, you're talking about this cleanup. This cleanup was caused by the intermingling of the material. Is that the bottom line?
I believe that it was for whatever reason, it's clear in the documents. There were certain existing roofing materials, not a lot of it, that had been identified as containing ACM. Those were sampled during the feasibility study stage. That information was clearly identified on the roof plan, as well as the 2 reports that identified that. And the roofer just did not, I guess the guys actually working the site, were not prepared or told by their main office that there was this material and that it needed to get managed properly and appropriately. So that material got removed and placed in a roofing dumpster along with other materials that were not considered hazardous materials. But now that they've been commingled, they need to be managed all the same.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question. This is Gail. How are you? I was going back to the lighting, the replacement of the lights, some of the light fixtures and whatnot. Do you know, are you aware of any energy incentives that are offered, rebates offered through whoever the electric company is, Mass Save, National Grid or whatnot? And is anybody pursuing any of those rebates?
I know that the original, that a majority of the change over of the lights to LEDs was done under that similar program. So I think the actual magnitude of the scope, we're basically upgrading or replacing fixtures that were not part of that program or grant. But Deborah, have you reviewed any of that with?
Yeah, no, and I was just trying to remember. So I was just sorting through my emails to see what, remind myself what the response was about any additional rebates. And I don't want to misstate it. I'll have to look for the email.
Deborah, could you, when you find the answer, could you email that to Jeremy and then he could send it out to the commission members?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I get on to finances?
Are you satisfied with the quality of the work, Evan?
Yeah, I think so. So far, it's been good. I think we have, despite this issue with the roofing materials themselves, I think the slate work and the copper work has been quite good, and I think that the folks that we have dealing with the masonry the cleaning and some of that repair. Everyone seems to be diligent and know what they're doing, and is listening to the architect, which is important. And I think the folks that are dealing with our balcony railing restorations seem to know what they're doing as well, and have are making a concerted effort to do the right thing, recommend the right repairs. In addition to the work that I've outlined, we also have a report from our balcony restoration folks that have outlined what they are proposing to do relative to the repairs, now that all of the paint's been stripped off and we can truly see what needs to get addressed. So we're in the process of reviewing that. We currently believe that there will be a no-cost change relative to that we're able to take care of the restoration. I'll say the scope is larger or more comprehensive, but not as involved as we own some castings and things like that we believe that we don't actually need to do and can do these other repairs. We've also had an assessment now that some windows have been removed. These are the old wood windows in the 1907 building that that are in the shop, and those have been assessed, and we have a report along with their plan of action for how they would be managing glass replacement, repair of damaged sections, and replacing stuff that cannot be repaired with Spanish cedar with similar or identical profiles, etc. So at least our initial reviews of both of those reports seem good, but yeah, I think we kind of lucked out with our general contractor and the group of subs that we currently have on the project. So I think the work has been good. Deborah, any disagreements or comments in that regard?
I think it'll work out. I think, it might be, I think we could find that there's some extra scope on the window restoration. I actually sent that back today, sort of asking for a plan of how they're gonna quantify the scope. But overall, it's getting done. The masonry guys who are very good, I think that's going a little bit slowly, but that's always a process, and to fix up all that stone that has all kinds of colors on it at the moment at the front of the building, and to really make it look good. It's worth the time to do samples and match the colors, and it's a little bit labor intensive, but hopefully it'll stay on schedule. But getting it done right is the priority.
Yeah, I don't know if I had mentioned at the last meeting, but one of the issues is that there's some rusting at some of the stone iron that's coming through, and for a long time we all thought that it was limestone, but they've actually done some sampling, and there's some sandstone, which is quite a bit softer, and so our expectations relative to kind of the extent of cleaning and other things that we're able to do have changed slightly now that we know that we're also dealing with sandstone in addition to limestone.
Okay,
So,
go ahead, sorry.
yep. So relative to the budget, this is the same, this budget's remained the same since last month that got adjusted with the change order number 1, and also some professional fees. So again, we have a contingency currently at just over 1.4 million, soft cost contingency of a little over 55,000, and our total project budget remains at 6.5 million.
So we're on budget.
So we are, and we are on budget as well as on schedule.
Always good things to hear.
Yes. So we have 3 kind of additions to our overall changes. We have replacement of some missing spray fireproofing. We actually have a real number from the contractor there. So change request 6 in the amount of $2,762.78. We had an equipment pad that was no longer needed at the 4th floor. That's a larger storage area, and removal of this pad allows for much more usable and user-friendly space. So that work's actually been completed in the amount of $1,090.61. And then correcting our light fixtures. I'd gone over that issue previously. So that was identified, and that went from, I think, a $15,000 allowance kind of plug for that to a total of $2,731.96. So
Was this the areas that we saw pictures of where the hole was too big and the junction boxes were missing? Is that what we're talking about?
yeah, so this was an issue with those existing fixtures not being wired to code. So, right, it's a combination of the larger holes as well as the wiring. So we had some numbers for, so we had the engineer review and what they were proposing relative to correcting the electrical issues there. So with these 3 PCOs, thought we'd get a vote for approval for those 3, and we can incorporate those in a future change order. So the total for those 3 items is $6,585.35, and we recommend approval.
And Deb, you're satisfied with those numbers?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the commission members? Hearing none. Jackie?
Move to approve.
Terry?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, Jeremy.
All right, Terry,
Yes.
Ed? Yes. Jackie,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Jack.
Yes, passes unanimously. Is there anything else you need to bring to our attention tonight, Evan?
Yeah, just one more thing relative to the budget or the changes. And this is relative to soft costs. So I did want to identify, highlighted here, And again, this is just kind of an allowance or a plug number. I believe that this, the actual cost of this will be quite significantly less, but with the window caulking removal at the 1907 building, that has been, and it's in the documents, has been identified and is getting removed as hazardous material. And as part of that, we need to do some actual monitoring once they're and do some clearances once they're done with the individual removal. So this is very similar to you know, if you had something at the interior that was airborne, that you would be doing air samples and have clearances there. So this would be under the architects, under Deborah's umbrella for her consultant. So I think we're just at this point planning on tracking that on a as needed basis, and that will come before you with an amendment to the BHA contract that would include that additional service. Deborah, anything you'd like to add relative to that?
No, that's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Should be pretty minimal.
Right. So here you'll see this is our current soft cost contingency number, 55,000 some odd. If all of this $20 cost was realized, we would have a remaining soft cost contingency of 35,000. And again, I don't think that we would be approaching that level of cost. But any questions relative to overall changes, any of these specific soft cost change anticipated here?
Yeah, Deborah, where do we stand on the handicap accessibility improvements design?
So we, the surveyor was out there a few weeks ago, produced a survey of that area. I spoke to the engineer yesterday. We met and reviewed the scope, and he's starting to work on the details and a plan for that this week. He said he'd have a preliminary something end of this week. The extent of the replacement of the paving out there is something that we might come back and present if there are a few options to do a lesser amount or a greater amount, depending on what we think a match to the existing is and the condition of some of the existing. We can put together a package to show that probably for next time.
Okay.
But yeah, that's coming along.
All right. Bob Barton, do you have anything to add to our presentation tonight?
No, sir, just on time, on budget, and good quality. I also would say that your GC has got a good professional response to the issues that are surrounding that roofing material. I thought that was indicative of a good part of the team. So
Good. Good. And then Charlie Oliver, are you on?
I can bring him in.
Are you there, Charlie? Oh, there he is. Charlie, do you have any questions or comments? Anything to add?
No questions. I'm impressed by the weekly meetings and the professionalism of our project manager and our general contractor and the team in general. So I don't have a lot of experience with projects like this, like you folks do, but it seems to be a well-oiled machine, and I love the way it's going right now.
Yeah, I do have to say that it's been a relatively new thing for us with the weekly meetings, and the Attleboro High School project really started that, but I find them to be just invaluable in terms of making sure that we know what's going on and we know what issues we need to bring to this commission. Obviously, if any of you would like to attend those meetings, just let Jeremy know. We just have to avoid having a quorum, that's all, to avoid the open meeting law. But other than that, you know, you learn so much at these meetings. It's a good process. Did Amy join us or not? I guess not. So I guess then commission members, any other questions for the library team before we move on to other projects?
No.
I guess no news is good news. So thank you, Evan, Deb, Bob, and Charlie. And we will move on to our next project.
Thanks, everyone.
Night.
Thank you.
All right, Jeremy, let's move on to the fire department roofs.
Yes, so we had on April 5th, we had a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting for design firms interested in the project. So as you know, we're bidding both the headquarters at 100 Union Street and the Briggs Corner Fire Station as one project, which talking with some of the folks there seems to have made it a little bit more of attractive of a proposition for them. So I'm glad we went that route. We had 7 attendees. So the 7 of them, Mark Zawatsky, our construction consultant from Port Construction, and myself climbed up on the roofs and checked them out. So we have bids due on April 22nd, which is a couple Fridays from now.
Well, let's be clear, those are bids by designers.
Correct.
Responses to the RFQs.
Correct. So they're going to give us their qualifications. We are not yet at construction. We don't have design or construction documents yet. So these are bids from the designers. Yes, thank you, Jack. On April 22nd, they're due. So once I get all of those, I will share them with you that Friday afternoon. And then I believe we would like to have a special meeting. Is that right, Jack, on the following Wednesday?
Yes. Mark's schedule, I think, is a little ambitious, but we're thinking that if we have a meeting on the 28th, is it?
Yes.
Of this group, that means that between the 22nd and the 28th, you can either get the responses electronically, or you can pick them up from Jeremy at City Hall if you're like me and you like to hold pieces of paper in your hand. So what we'll need you to do then, and we'll certainly let Andrew and Kelly know this as well, but we'll need you to come in with your own short list, and we will, as a group, prepare a short list based on who we think we should interview. And then I think the schedule would be that after we finish the library portion on
May 5th.
May 5th,
Mhm.
then we will interview those 3 top candidates, and we will then vote as the designer selection committee as to who to recommend to the mayor that the city enter into a contract with for this design work. So that is pretty much where we are. I think they also gave us a tentative master project schedule, which would mean that probably at our meeting on June 2nd, we probably would have a presentation by the architect of the design development, and should have construction documents by our July 7th meeting, should have bids by our August 18th. And I'm not sure that that's our regular meeting, so we might have to have a special meeting. And looking at having construction completed before Christmas. So So I said to Jeremy once, that will be the fire chief's Christmas present this year, will be some new roofs. So obviously all the dates are fluid, except for the next two. That is that on the 28th, we will meet virtually and make a choice. And then on the 5th, we will meet and make a recommendation to the mayor. Does anybody have any questions on that project?
So, Jack, not really on this project, more of a generic question, if you will. It's more to Jeremy. Last night during the city council meeting, Councilor Richard Conti brought out that it seems like Attleboro has quite a few projects ongoing now, and it all comes with an expense. And he was kind of telling the city council that maybe it's about time for the city of Attleboro to have somebody on their payroll as the engineer or / clerk of works. I'm just kind of wondering how you kind of feel about that and whether or not that's something we as a commission should be endorsing or just kind of putting it out there. I mean, I thought it was kind of a good idea.
Well, it's an interesting point, Mike, but I think that the OPM law requires us to have an OPM on projects $1.5 million or north of that number. So that for any major project, whether it was the library, the high school,
Middle school roofs.
Excuse me,
The middle school roofs.
the middle school roofs, we needed to have an OPM on board. So it's really only for the projects that are underneath that, like the fire station roofs, like the gym floors that we're going to talk about in a minute. Those things, and I'm not so sure that the actual clerk of the works is our need. I think our need is someone more like Mark Sawatsky, who can put together the program and take some of the burden off Jeremy of, the master schedule we just talked about, the writing the RFQs, advising us, because I think we want Mark at the RFQ meeting. I think we want him here on each of the next two meetings. I see that as a bigger thing because I think, and we've had some experience with this in the past, that we have hired as part of the architect services or the designer services, the clerk of the works. So we had on the middle school roofs, we had Skanska, but we also had Russo Bar bring Jerry, was it Jerry?
There was Rich Gorman.
Rich Gorham, yeah. And so I think it's an interesting point he raises, but maybe the fact that you've raised this is that maybe I should give Richard a call someday and have a discussion with him, because it strikes me that we do have a need for services, but I think it's more along the lines of a mini OPM rather than a clerk of the works. I'm not sure what your thought is on that, Mike.
No, I think you brought up a lot of good valid points and points that I kind of forgot about. I forgot about the 1.5. Again, I think it was a point when it was made, it calls for good discussion to have. We want to make sure that we're having the proper oversight. So again, I think it was just kind of to throw it out there, see what everybody thought. But I do appreciate, your professionalism in the background that you have on these subjects, Jack. It brings a bigger picture to the table than it needs to,
Yeah, and from my point of view, Mike, I think a lot of these are the situations in which contracted services is the route that a public entity should be going. We don't have the workload to bring in somebody full-time, and that these are the specific areas of expertise in which short-term contracted services make a lot of sense. I will say we might need something on the city side, whether I was talking earlier, whether it's some sort of facility management sort of person who kind of has that skill set, the OPM style skill set to bring in-house. I perhaps like the idea long-term, but I will say from my other perspective as the budget director, there's not a lot of room for it. So it's something that we'll keep in mind. But in terms of adding salaries to this upcoming fiscal year's budget or even the next, it's a tough ask.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, I just would like to endorse what Jeremy said. I think a lot of us on the commission, especially those of us who've been on for a long time, appreciate the need for a building maintenance department in the city. We expect Amy as the librarian or executive director of the library, whatever her exact title is, to also know how to be in charge of a building. And I think that that's not really appropriate, in my opinion, to ask her to do that. Her skill set is the things that make the library go, not the things that make the building be maintained. And
that exact point can be applied to the fire chief, the police chief, the recreation director, the park superintendent, the mayor's office and the staff in the mayor's office who maintain that building, council on aging. Who else am I forgetting? But to Mike Tyler in his building. So yeah, the point is well taken from the administration's point of view.
And I think that's a good long-term goal for us to push for. But I certainly will reach out to Richard and share some thoughts with him. And if he wants any of us to appear before his capital improvements committee and discuss it, be happy to do that. And I'm sure Jeremy would be happy to as well, to make sure that the city council understands what we do and how we do it and where our needs really are, at least in our opinion. So, but I'm glad you brought it up because I stopped watching last night after I finished speaking at the public hearing on the discontinuance of portions of the traffic circle. We did mention your name prominently, Mike.
I missed that part of it, but yeah, I think it's great to have that discussion. So everybody, not everybody has all the same knowledge on this commission. So it's kind of nice we're able to share that. It just kind of makes us better as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. We are volunteers. We do put in a lot of time, but, we do rely on professional help. And okay, then I guess.
I'll make a comment on Jim Flores before we move on.
Yes, let's go to Jim Flores.
I neglected to put this on the agenda. We haven't quite kicked off the project yet, but I was hoping to take my experiences through doing the designer RFQ from the fire department roof and apply that to a gym floor procurement. But what it's shown me is that there is that need for the professional expertise outside of what I have either the time or the knowledge to be able to do. So I'm hoping to go a similar route with a construction consultant for the gym floor project and essentially do the same thing we're doing for the fire department roofs, but push it out a month or so. We are also waiting to make sure after our last meeting that there wouldn't be any funds further expended on the roofs for Brennan and Wamsutta. So now that we have that put to bed for the moment, we'll be able to create an organization within a fund. It doesn't quite matter, but we'll be able to set up a budget for gym floors to be able to go forward with that. So it doesn't require further appropriation from the municipal council. So I'm hopeful we can get that moving pretty quickly.
And that looks like a summer slammer, to borrow a phrase from last year.
Yes, that's what I'm hopeful.
Which actually is good because if the building is unoccupied, the work should be cheaper and it should be safer, both from a construction standpoint and removal of the mercury containing floor. Then the Attleboro Pawtucket Interconnect is the last thing on our agenda. I got an email from Gary Arazian today that we passed the minor site plan review committee and the decision was filed. So now CDM Smith just needs to put the specifications together, so we can put this out to bid. It's been delayed severely. I'm not happy with CDM Smith. I don't think Jeremy is either. But we're sort of married to them.
For this
Can't
project.
can't get divorced in midstream here. So I guess the only thing is, I know we have a bill from them, and I know that we've been sort of unhappy about paying their bills. Jeremy, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I talked with Courtney, and we were able to kind of tie each of the charges to meetings that we've had and deliverables that we've had. So it didn't seem that there was anything administrative in nature, like we had pushed back on some of the earlier ones.
So the bill is in order to pay.
It is.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that project? Okay, then hopefully in another month or so, we can be shortlisting, or maybe 2, but we'll be shortlisting designers for that project so we can get that moving along. So then, Jeremy, we have some bills.
Yep.
We have library bill for our OPM. That bill appropriate to pay?
Yeah, so I'll go through the library ones. STV, yep, I've reviewed and appropriate to pay, and STV has reviewed the 3 BH&A bills as well. You can see there's 3 for the accessibility upgrades, the window replacement, and then for their construction administration services. And both STV and BH&A have reviewed the track application and have signed off on it.
Okay. And then we have the fire department roof. We have the bill for port, and that's in order to pay.
Yep, that one is meticulously documented in the hours.
So I guess unless there's any questions, Jackie, are you back with us?
I'm back.
Do you want to make a motion to approve all of the bills?
Move to approve all the bills.
Second.
Terry? Thank
Second.
you. And any questions or comments? Hearing none. Jeremy?
All right, Terry,
Yes.
Ed? Yes. Jackie,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Jack.
Yes, it passes unanimously. So I just had a thought, and I want to throw it out to the group before we finish. In the past, when we've interviewed architects, we've actually done it in person. I think the last time we did it was over at Wamsutta, and we were able to be socially distant. Do we want to consider, when we interview, rather than doing it remotely and doing this meeting remotely on May 5th, what's your thought, group, on whether we want to actually physically invite them and take a road trip and maybe do it over at Wamsutta? Or Jim, where does the school committee meet these days? Are they still meeting at Wamsutta?
They're no longer meeting at Wamsutta. They're now meeting at Studley.
Okay, would Studley be an appropriate place if we decided that?
Sure.
So what do you think, group? Do we want to do it remotely, or do we want to physically look these
I'm
people in the eye?
physically going there, physically interviewing them.
Okay, what do you think, Mike?
I think if they were requiring the kids to go back to school, everybody should go back.
Yep, I'm with you, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, Gail?
Yes, that's fine with me.
And Jackie?
I'm okay with it. I've got
All
my,
right. Then why don't we schedule our regular meeting of, we can do the shortlisting remotely on the 28th, and we'll do that from here. But on the 5th, let's schedule our meeting to be at Studley. And Jeremy, would you make sure that Andrew and Kelly know of our additional meeting and our change of meeting? And then just so you can keep your schedule straight, it looks like June 2nd would be our June meeting. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and next week will be the school building committee. And just to remind you that on May 12th, we have a double header in that we're meeting at the new high school at 3:30, and then we'll be back remote for 5:30. So anybody have anything else?
nope.
Okay, good meeting, everyone. Jeremy, we need a motion to adjourn from Jackie.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
Thank you. Jeremy, go ahead.
Terry,
yes.
Ed? Yes. Jackie,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Jackie.
Yes, we are adjourned at 6:27.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
Would it have pained Deborah to be a slightly more positive?